The special favor of Allah, Awliya Allah. The universe is the body and its soul. Awliya Allah, Awliya Allah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'awudhu billahi min shaitan rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabi Allah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nur Allah. Viewers of Madani Channel, welcome to Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow. And the idea of this program is that, alhamdulillah, as Muslims, we feel that we are losing our rich heritage. As Muslims, we have this rich heritage behind us. We have such great history, such pious people behind us. But unfortunately, we know very little about them. And the fact that their lives, their stories, the events regarding their lives have been preserved for thousands of years in some cases, up to 1400 years, these stories have been preserved, it is for a reason. It is for a reason that we can learn from the events that took place yesterday, so that we can make a change today, so that we can have a better tomorrow. So let's learn a little bit about our rich heritage. Let's learn about some of our personalities of the past. But when we listen to the events that took place in their life, don't just think that they are stories. They're not just stories. They are things that we need to learn from. These pious predecessors lived their lives in such a way as role models for us. These are the people that we should be looking up to. These are the people that we should be following. These are the people that we should learn to see how they lived their lives, how they dealt with situations. And depending on how they dealt with situations, we should also try and adopt their habits and live our life according to the role models that we should adopt. So let's make an intention that we associate ourselves with pious people. We learn about our role models of the past, and we try and live our lives according to them. We're going to begin by giving you a blessing of reciting Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the reason that we do this is that in every program, alhamdulillah, you see it, is that we try to give you these blessings so that inshallah azza wa jalla, you become habitual in reciting Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And if you remember these blessings and you pass them on to others and inshallah they become habitual, then inshallah azza wa jalla, you will get the reward as well. In this particular one that we're going to give today, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that whoever, Allahu Akbar, such a easy thing to achieve. You know, sometimes when we give these wazaif or we say read the Durud Pak, or people will say, oh, read this surah 5,000 times, yeah, and it's so hard to read. Listen to this, viewers of the channel. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that whoever recites salat upon me, how many times? Just 10 times. Just 10 times in the morning and 10 times in the evening, then he, that fortunate person, shall gain my intercession on the day of judgment. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. What a beautiful gift that is, if only we live our lives according to it. Now, 10 times in the morning, 10 times in the evening, how hard is that? How long does it take to recite Durud Pak 10 times on the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? No more than, let's say, even if it takes you 5 seconds, 10 seconds per Durud Pak, and that's probably an exaggeration. But let's say you read a long Durud Pak, it takes 10, 15 seconds. Then you can read 10 Durud Pak in a minute and a half. A minute and a half in the morning, a minute and a half in the evening. And insha'Allah azza wa jalla, the reward is this, that you will gain the intercession of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of judgment. That day nobody will be there for you. Your loved ones will be nowhere near you. Your spouse, your mother, your father, your children, they will not be able to help you. The only person that can help you on that day is the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's make an intention to recite Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as frequent as possible, and inshallah azza wa jalla, we can learn something from them. Inshallah, today we're going to learn about the history of a great personality whose blessings are still being received today. Although many centuries have passed, there is always a crowd of people. There is always a crowd of people to be found at his shrine. People come and receive whatever they come to. People come from many, many miles, thousands of miles. And this particular individual that we're going to talk about, I remember I met one alim Madin, and he said, other than Medina, when I go to this particular shrine, that is the only place that I feel at peace. And inshallah, we're going to learn a little bit about his life. We're going to learn a little bit of how he had the knowledge, the thirst for education, and we'll learn how he showed patience in the times of tribulation. It is written, viewers of the channel, that it was evening and the darkness of night began to slowly fall upon everything. A certain traveler from Khorasan, with no goods and only a staff in his hand, was wearing a thick, worn-out and coarse clothing on a journey. He reached a colony and decided to spend the night at this inn there. And when he was there, because he looked very, very poor, people were looking at him and they were saying to him, "Who are you?" And they were saying in a harsh tone that, because you're not very good clothes on, who are you? And he replied that I am a traveler and I want to stay here the night. They all started laughing at him and they started looking at him and he said, "Well, he's not from us. He's not one of us. Ignore him." And this pious person, this traveler said, "Yes, thankfully I'm not one from you." And a little time later, they put some dry bread on his table and they walked away and they had all this food in front of them and they were eating this really nice food, but they only gave him this dry bread. And as he was eating the dry bread, they were making fun of him, joking at him. And what they also did is they got watermelon skins, the watermelons, when you get pieces of watermelon, they'd ate the watermelon and they were throwing the watermelon skins at him. All this time, this traveler never said a word. He never got up, he never got angry, he just sat there and casually, lightly ate that dry bread that he had. Here's the Madani Channel. This incident that I've just mentioned, is the pious saint of the elevated status who remains patient with those insults, was none other than Sayyidina Data Ganj Bakhsh Ali Hajveri Rahmatullahi Ta'ala. And surely, if we look at the lives of our pious people, viewers of the channel, that they would remain patient on every affliction. No matter what happened to them, no matter what pain they came through, no matter what problems they faced, they always showed sabr, they always showed thankfulness. In this particular case, people were making fun of him, people were throwing things at him, but he still showed shukr, and again, that's something for us. As Allah Azza wa Jal favors his bondsmen by sending countless blessings upon them, similarly, he also puts them through tests and trials. So those people that are close to Allah Azza wa Jal, they are the ones that are tested. You may be thinking to yourself, well, why did this happen to me? Why have I faced all these problems? Why have I faced all these hardships? Why have I had to shed all these tears in my life? Maybe it's because you are close to Allah Azza wa Jal. Maybe this is His way of testing you. And if you are, I will say, fortunate in a way you can say that you're fortunate. If you look at it from that point of view, then you are fortunate that Allah Azza wa Jal has chosen you amongst the blessed ones to be trialed, to be tested. And if during that time you've shown shukr, you've shown sabr, then insha'Allah Azza wa Jal, your reward will be there. And Allah Azza wa Jal says, and I'll give you the translation from Kanzul Iman, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 153. Allah Azza wa Jal says, indeed, Allah is with those who are patient. Allah is with those who are patient, my viewers of Madani Channel. So this is something that we need to reflect on. And if we look at the lives of the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we look at the lives of the companions, we look at the lives of all the pious predecessors. Name me one pious person that had it easy. You will struggle. You may not, I cannot think of a pious person that had an easy life, that he grew up and he had loads of food and loads of clothes and he had a happy family and he had a happy kids and he had no problems whatsoever. Can you think of somebody? This is a test. And it said that those pious people, they are tested. And people, when they're on the path of piety, they are tested. I've heard stories of people that when they've been enrolled in Jamiatul Madinah, the Jamiatul Madinah is the institute, viewers of the channel, where people become the scholars. That when they've enrolled on these courses, then they're having bad nightmares. And I remember that there was one incident where a student that had a bad nightmare, that what was happening is, as they were going to the Jamiatul Madinah, on the way there was dogs, there was snakes, there was scorpions stopping them there. So I took this dream and I went to a scholar and I said to the scholar that there's a student, and this student, mashallah, is a good student at the inn. He's probably in the 3rd year or 4th year now. But this student, in the dream, they are saying this. And he didn't hear the word dream. Yeah? He didn't hear the word dream. And he said, Acha, really? And I said, yes. And he said, well, that's normal. That's normal. And I said to him that, so what should he read? And as I was talking to him, he gathered that it was a dream, it wasn't reality. And he said to me, he said that if it's a dream, then it's nothing. People that are on the path of piety, people that are on the path of knowledge, people that are on the path of acquiring this deen of knowledge, this knowledge of the deen, they will face all these difficulties. And I remember that many scholars that I've spoken to, the difficulty that they have faced, and the scholars have said that when they're on this path of knowledge, that at times they feel like they're dying. But again, look at the path of the pious predecessors, that whenever an affliction came to them, whenever a problem came to them, whenever they faced any difficulty, they showed patience. Viewers of Madani Channel, today we're going to talk, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about Sayyidina Data Ganj Bakhsh Ali Hajweri, Rahmatullah Ta'ala. His actual name is Ali, and his father's name is Osman. His lineage is linked to Sayyidina Imam Hassan Mushtaba radiallahu ta'ala through 6 generations, through 6 relations, and he has the kunyat of Abul Hassan. His famous title is Ganj Bakhsh. And the reason for giving this name is that Sayyidina Muhyiddin Chishti Ajmeri Sanjeri Rahmatullah Ta'ala, he observed itikaf at his shrine for some time. And after receiving the eternal benefits from Sayyidina Data Ganj Bakhsh, then he gave him this title. He gave him this title of Sayyidina Data Ganj Bakhsh. And the title given by Sayyidina Sultan al-Hind, Khwaja Gharib Nawaz, Rahmatullah Ta'ala, has been echoed all over the subcontinent today. People will not know his name, but people will know Data Sahib. People will know Data Ganj Bakhsh. And people know that if they travel to the beautiful city of Lord, then there is where the blessed shrine of this great personality is. Viewers of Madani Channel, Sayyidina Data Ganj Bakhsh Rahmatullah Ta'ala, he was born in 400 al-Hijri. More than 1,000 years ago he was born. And he was born in a place called Ghazni. And after some time his family shifted to Mohalla Ajweri. And due to this place he is also called Hajweri, because of the location where he's brought up. And it's stated that he gained great knowledge and marifat from many high-ranking Aima and Tariqat and Shariat. And he spent the major part of his life in travels. And in order to meet the righteous bondsmen of Allah Azza wa Jalla, to receive blessings from them and their good influence, and to overpower his nafs through hardship for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jalla. He traveled through many countries, viewers of Madani Channel, including Kirman, Sistan, Turkestan, Mawara and Nahar, Khuzestan, Tabristan, Azerbaijan, Persia, Iraq, Syria, Palestine, and the Hijaz Muqaddas, i.e. Makkah and Medina. Viewers of Madani Channel, I just want to pause there for a second. We can see that this great personality, he traveled this distance not only to acquire knowledge, but also to meet pious people. He met the pious people. He would travel from country to country. And you know, we're talking about a time 1,000 years ago where there was no trains, there was no planes. You know, it was hard to travel. You probably traveled on foot, you traveled on camel, or you traveled on horse. So these, if you were to get out a map, and inshallah later on when I go home, I will get out a map and I will look at these countries and you see the journeys that this person made. Why? To meet pious people. And again, there is a blessing in meeting pious people, viewers in the channel. It's something that we need to think about, that we need to ponder about, that do we take time out to meet pious people? Nowadays, people, they will put videos on social media that, oh, I met this personality. And it'll be a film star. Oh, I met this politician. And they'll put their picture on they're shaking hands with this politician. Or, you know, they're having a meal with this film star. Or they've met this singer, or they've met that dancer. And as soon as they find out that this great person has come to their city or come to the country, then they'll take a few days off and travel there. People, when cricket teams, here in the UK, when cricket teams come to this country, they take days off so they can follow the cricket team around and spend time with the cricket team and get their photos with the cricket team. Allahu Akbar. How many of us take time out to go and visit pious personalities? How many of us try to go and sit in their sobat? And you know, one thing I've realized, viewers of Madani Channel, that when you sit with pious people, when you sit with knowledgeable people, people that have knowledge, if you sit with the scholars, then within a few moments of time, within a few minutes, you realize, well, I realize that I know nothing. You know, when you sit with a scholar and you're sitting there and you're looking at them, and you realize, within a short space of time, you realize that we are told there is a blessing in looking at the face of a scholar, and you're sitting there and you're looking at them and you're thinking, you know what? Allahu Akbar. You know, the knowledge that this person has, the qurbani that this person has given to attain this knowledge. I remember many years ago that when Mufti Qasim, the Mufti of Dawat Islami, may Allah keep his shadow upon us, when he came to the UK, and he came to a masjid that I know of, and we were there, and Mufti Sahib started the bayan. And before the bayan, because it was an Awami masjid, Dawat Islami don't do this, but because it was a masjid that was run by the public, the Imam of the masjid stood up and he introduced Mufti Qasim. And he explained to him that this person, and he also explained the fact that, you know, when you become a mufti within Dawat Islami, it's not easy. Many, many years have to be given. That you have to acquire this knowledge, then you have to do a course, then you have to be a naib mufti, then you have to do this, and it can take many, many years. So if this person that is going to, inshallah, Azza wa Jalla, do a speech today, if he is a mufti, without a doubt he is a mufti, then inshallah he has given a lot of sacrifice to achieve this. And he mentioned his age. Now I can't remember the age at the time. So the speech starts. The speech starts, and to be honest, I'll be honest with you, I can't remember what the speech was about. But what I do remember is there was someone that I know, someone that as effectively I've been brought up with, and I'm looking at him, and he started crying. And literally, the whole of the speech he was crying. The whole of the bayan he was crying. And I'm thinking, you know, what have I missed? I'm listening to Mufti Saab, and I'm thinking, Mufti Saab's not saying anything that really, you know, would, you know, is making me cry. And yet this person, every time I look at him, he's crying. I listen to Mufti Saab for a few more minutes thinking that there's something wrong with me, that it should, whatever Mufti Saab is saying should come into my heart, and I should be feeling this feeling that he is feeling, but it's not happening to me. So I'm constantly looking at Mufti Saab, and then I'm looking at him, then I'm looking at Mufti Saab, and I'm thinking something's not right. Something's wrong with me. Without a doubt, if this Mufti Saab is having this effect on this person, then without a doubt there's something wrong with me. So after the gathering, I went outside with him and asked him, I said, brother, you know, mashallah, you listen to the bayan. What part of the bayan, what part of the speech made you cry? You know, if you can tell me, because for some reason I didn't cry. I didn't get upset. I didn't have that fear of Allah Azza wa Jalla in my heart when I was listening to that. And I was more looking at you and looking at him and trying to work out why. And he smiled and he said to me, brother, I did not cry because of the bayan. He said the Imam Sahib that introduced Mufti Sahib, when he introduced him and he mentioned his age, and I realized that I am the same age as Mufti Sahib, and I started to think that what have I done with my life? Allahu Akbar. I'm the same age as this great personality that is in front of me, and he has sacrificed so much to become a mufti. What have I done? Yes, I've made money. Yes, I've got a car. Yes, I've got a house. Yes, I've got a family. But so what? What have I achieved? And that really hit me, viewers of Madani Channel, that when people say sit with the people that are pious, it's there so that you, when you sit with them, you realize that, you know, that you need to make a change in yourself. If you sit with people that have no knowledge, then you know what happens is you become the mufti, so to speak. You become the person of knowledge, and people are asking your questions, and you think you know it all then, and your nafs starts to take over, and you start to become better than them, and you, well, this is what it is, and this, and then you even start making mistakes because you don't want to be seen as not having knowledge. So it's very advisable, viewers of Madani Channel, to sit with those people that are pious. And it's also very advisable, now that we touched on that topic, to be very, very careful that whenever, because you may look pious, you know, you may have a beard, you may have the Imam Sharif like I might look pious to you, but how do you know if I'm pious? How do you know if I'm knowledgeable? You don't. So if someone asks you a question, then what you should do is you should be very, very careful about answering that question. And what you should really do is always try your best to refer that question to the scholars. And I've seen some beautiful scholars that I know of in the UK here, that you can ask them any question. And I know 100% that they know the answer. I know for a fact they know the answer because it's such a simple question. You know, even someone like me, a layman, knows the answer. But what will they do? They will say, brother, just wait a few moments. And they'll go and they'll come back and they'll say, brother, this book here, this page, this is the bayan. And this is what it says here. And so they refer you to the text. And so that way they are, even then they're scared of answering the knowledge. They say, look, it says here, this is what it says, and they'll read it out to you. Allahu Akbar. This humbleness, you know, and so you see that them scholars that are humble, them scholars that have the knowledge, but still they are humble, they are an example for us. And here we see that Datta Sahib would travel. How many countries did he travel to? To do what? To see these pious people. To do what? To acquire the knowledge of the deen. We're going to have a small package now. Inshallah, one of our Mubaliks, Rizwan Bhai, inshallah, is going to give us some Madani pearls with regards to Data Ganj Bakhsh Ajmeri, Rahmatullahi Ta'ala. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
My dear respected viewers of Madani Channel, today we will learn about Data Ali Hajweri, Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayhi. Hazrat Data Ganj Bakhsh Sayyid Ali bin Uthman Hajweri, Junaidi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayhi, he was born around 400 Hijri in Ghazni, East Afghanistan. He Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayhi was also a great scholar and a Kamil Wali of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. Hazrat Data Ganj Bakhsh Ali Hajweri, Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayhi, travels many countries of the world. And the reason was to seek knowledge of Deen Islam and to attain spirituality from Mashayikh. He rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh presented himself in the court of 300 Mashayikh only in Khurasan. And subhanallah, he attained many pearls of knowledge and wisdom from their court. In order to understand the status and excellence, maqam of Sayyidi Data Ali Hajweri rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, let's listen this. Hazrat Sayyidina Ali Khabbas rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh says that if someone wants to meet Hazrat Sayyidina Khizr ala Nabina wa alayhi salatu wassalam, then there are three important conditions. And if one is not present out of these three conditions, one cannot meet Sayyidina Khizr ala Nabina wa alayhi salatu wassalam. The very first condition he mentions, that person should be following Sunnah of the Prophet ala Nabina wa alayhi salatu wassalam and should not do any bid'ah. Number two, he should not be greedy of this world. Even if he saves one loaf of bread for next day, he will not be able to meet Sayyidina Khidr ala Nabina wa alayhi salatu wassalam. And the third condition is mentioned, that his heart should be free from malice, jealousy and takabbur, arrogance. Now look, Sayyidina Data Ali Hajweri rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh was such a great personality that he had all these conditions. That was the reason that he got the sohbah of Sayyidina Khidr ala Nabina wa alayhi salatu wassalam. He did not only get the sohbah, the company of Sayyidina Khidr ala Nabina wa alayhi salatu wassalam, he also got knowledge from the court of Sayyidina Khidr ala Nabina wa alayhi salatu wassalam. And not only that, he was very good friend of Sayyidina Khidr ala Nabina wa alayhi salatu wassalam. The respected viewers of Madani Channel, this tells us the great status and maqam of Sayyidina Data Ali Hajweri rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh. He rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh departed from this mortal world on 20 Safar 465 Hijri. And his shrine, Mazar, is situated in Lahore, Pakistan. May Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala shower countless blessings upon the shrine of Sayyidi Data Ali Hajweri rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh and forgive us for his sake. Ameen bijahin Nabi al-Ameen sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. MashaAllah, you just heard a few Madani pearls about the life and the times of Sayyidina Data Ganjbaksh Hajweri rahmatullahi ta'ala. And like I said earlier on, he traveled many distances to acquire the knowledge of the Deen. And he stated that he acquired the knowledge of the Deen at an early age. And it said that, again, there's a message there for us, that if you look at our pious predecessors, they would try to acquire the knowledge at an early age, because as you get older, it gets harder. It's not impossible. It's not impossible to acquire the knowledge of the Deen. But obviously at that young age, where you've not got responsibilities, you've not got any concerns of other things, you've not got family to look after, you've not got a job, you've not got a career, you've not got other things. At that young age is the best time to acquire the knowledge of the Deen. Yes, without a doubt, people do it. Alhamdulillah, here in the UK, we had someone that was nearly, mashallah, Nurbhai, was approximately 70 years of age when he completed his Dars Nizami, mashallah, a revert, someone that came to the fold of Islam, not knowing anything, and within 7 or 8 years, he became a scholar, alhamdulillah. So it's not impossible, but I think there's a message there, before we go on and talk about his knowledge, that we should try and get our children to acquire the knowledge of the Deen as early as possible. The earlier it is, the easier it is to learn. He completed his knowledge, as we said earlier on, at a very young age. And the status of his knowledge can be estimated from this incident, that once in the presence of Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi, Sayyidina Data Ali Hajweri rahmatullah had a discussion with a non-Muslim philosopher. He, by virtue of his scholarly competence, silenced him by giving outstanding answers, although he was very young. And this discussion is supposed to be made in the last year of Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi. Then he was approximately 20 years of age. So even at that young age, at the age of 20, that he was capable of answering all of the questions of a qualified, experienced philosopher. And again, that makes you realize that at that young age, the thirst for knowledge that he had. And these are fortunate people, viewers of the channel. Fortunate are those that have that thirst of knowledge. Because again, I see it as a blessing that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given you the ability to have that thirst, to be wanting to learn the knowledge of the Deen. There are people out there that, don't get that blessing. There are people out there that don't acquire the knowledge of deen. There are people out there that don't acquire the knowledge of reading the Quran, of reading the namaz, of what is further upon them. They don't acquire that. And that is well because they are not the fortunate ones. And we see here, viewers of Madani Channel, that Datta Sahib, he had this thirst for gaining knowledge to the extent that he traveled, and as we mentioned earlier, to approximately more than 10 countries, including Iraq, Syria, Hijaz and Muqaddas, Makkah and Medina. And he had many difficult incidents in this tough path. Again, you can imagine at the time, viewers of Madani Channel, that was a time where, there wasn't any security. There wasn't probably a police force. There wasn't, medical facilities available. There might not have been even, like we have nowadays, we have these service stations and places where you can stop and eat and rest in hotels. Maybe a lot of them didn't exist. And in that time when he was traveling, he probably slept under the stars. Yeah, and he ate what he was carrying. And Allah forbid, if he ever got ill, then he had to treat himself. So these difficulties these people faced. And we need to ponder about this, viewers of my channel, that if we look at the people of the past, they would travel thousands of miles, hundreds of miles. They would travel for days, weeks and years. Why? To acquire the knowledge of the deen. Today, if we say to you that, look, why don't you become a scholar? It's going to take 6 years, 7 years. 6 years? No, forget that. I ain't got 6 years. Okay. I haven't got 6 years. Then do this course. It's a 2 years. I ain't got 2 years. Okay. We've got a 3-month course. No, I ain't got 3 months. And you can bring it down and down and down, and you come to the 3-day Madri Qafla, and even then people don't have time. You come to the weekly Ijtima and say, look, it's a 2-hour weekly Ijtima. Just come to the Ijtima. It'll be no more than 2 hours. Insha'Allah, it won't be more than 2 hours. Just come to that. And even then they're hesitant. And then when they come, and if, for example, that particular week, the Ijtima goes on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and it's 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes, then they complain. You said it was 2 hours, it went on for 2 hours 10, it went on for 2 hours 15. Them same people, they never complain. When there's an extra time in a football match, when they have to go to penalties or whatever it is in a football, they never complain, oh, it should have finished in 90 minutes, why is it taking this long? Yeah? It shouldn't happen like this, right? This shouldn't be the way. They never complain then, but this again, you need to ask yourself, why? Why are we finding it so hard to acquire the knowledge of the deen? And it's because our nafs has overtaken us. Our nafs does not realize how important it is to acquire that knowledge. We do not realize. Because what happens is you see a degree, a worldly education, and you think to yourself, if I get this degree, if I get these A levels or I get this degree, master's, PhD, whatever, then I can go down this route. And I'll be making 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 100,000 pounds a year. But if I go down this route, then what will I get? Use the Madani Channel. Whatever you get in this dunya, Allah Azza wa Jalla has written for you. Whatever risk, it is written for you. If you are destined to become a millionaire, if it is in your destiny to become a millionaire, you will become a millionaire. Now it's up to you whether you become a millionaire through halal means or through haram means. It's your decision. But it's in your destiny. But you know what's not in your destiny? You have a say in it. You have that control of it, is your akhirat. How are you going to die? What good deeds are you going to take with you? In this dunya, we fill up our bank balances. If we've got family in a different country, we send money back home so that we can have a nice house there, koti there, whatever it is. What do we send forward, viewers of the channel? What do we send to that account that will be opened when we're in that dark and lonely grave? When it's only us. What do we send to that account that on the day of judgment, our good deeds and our bad deeds will be scaled in front of us? What are we going to put on that good deed side? Do we have anything? Or do we even worry about it? Do we worry about crossing the bridge of Sirat that we're told is sharper than the sharpest sword and finer than the finest hair? How are we going to cross that bridge? Allahu Akbar. But what happens? We don't worry about it. We'll worry about it later. At the moment, I need to make money. At the moment, I need to chill. At the moment, I need to have nice clothes. At the moment, I need to do all these things. But viewers of Madani Channel, it is compulsory upon us. It is compulsory, yes, the word compulsory, further upon us to acquire a certain amount of the knowledge of the deen. You may say, oh, well, Imam Sahib knows it. Why do I need? I don't need to know it. I'm this, I'm that. I've got this job, I've got that job. I don't need to know it. whatever your job is, whatever your position is, whatever your status is, whatever your background, there is a certain amount of knowledge that you need to know. It is stated in the hadith, viewers of my channel, that gaining knowledge is compulsory for every Muslim man and woman. It is compulsory for them to acquire the knowledge according to their needs. Shaykh Tariqat, Amir al-Sunnah, the founder of Dawat Islami, Alama Maulana Abu Bilal Muhammad Ilyas Attar Qadri, may Allah keep his shadow upon us, that he stated that regarding this hadith, Imam al-Sunnah, Maulana Shah Imam Ahmad Raza Khan Rahmatullah Ta'ala said that in a simple summary, the first and foremost fard is to get knowledge of basic beliefs, which makes a person a Sunni of correct beliefs, and to deny or oppose it makes a person of an unbeliever or corrupt. That is the first thing. You need to get your beliefs correct. How do you know, viewers of the child, whether your aqaid, whether your beliefs are correct? What are your beliefs regarding Allah Azza wa Jalla? What are your beliefs regarding the Prophet of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? What are your beliefs regarding the afterlife? What are your beliefs regarding these things? I don't know. I don't know. You tell me. If that's the answer, then we should be worried. We should be worried because if we do not have the correct answer, then someone can come to us with the wrong answer. And when someone comes to us with the wrong answer and misguides us, then you run the risk of losing your iman. And viewers have mentioned that iman is the greatest gift you will ever have. It is the greatest gift you will ever have, without a doubt. You know, I came here, I mentioned this many, many times, viewers on the channel. I have my car parked outside. When I came in, I locked it. Why did I not just leave it open? Why? Because I want to protect it. I want to protect my car. I don't want someone stealing my car. My money, I have it inside my wallet, which is inside my pocket. Why? Because I want to protect it. But what are we doing with our iman? What are we doing to safeguard our iman? What are you doing to put the locks on your iman? And the locks that you need to safeguard your iman are knowledge. So the first thing that we need to know, viewers on the channel, is our aqaid, our beliefs. Our fundamental beliefs as a Muslim, we need to have these. And if we haven't got them, then you need to ponder, then you need to be concerned. And I would advise you all to attach yourself to Madani Channel, attach yourself to Dawat Islami, attach yourself to scholars, and get them to educate you about what your correct aqaid should be. The next thing, after acquiring that knowledge, the next most important thing that we need to learn about is our salah. Why? Because salah, namaz, is farz upon us. If you do not know what is faraid in your salah, if you do not know what can invalidate your salah, if you do not know how to perform your salah correctly, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And unfortunately, you may think, well, we all know it, don't we? I learned how to do my namaz. Yes, you did. I'm not doubting it. Every Muslim, I believe, that has gone through a madrasa, that has gone through a masjid, that has had a teacher at a young age, that your parents provide a teacher, you learned how to read your namaz. But have you ever checked it? Have you ever tested yourself? You know, the example we give is that if you buy a brand new car, comes out the showroom, it's brand new, it's never done any miles. 6 months later, 12 months later, you take it back to the garage. It's a new car. Why are you taking it to get, I just want to get it serviced. Oh, okay. So when you get it serviced, you get all the oils changed and you make a check. And then after 2 years, you do it again. And then every year, you get a garage to look at it and they'll advise you, look, we think you need these brake pads. We think you need this. We think you need that. And they will advise you and you will listen to their advice. And you will act upon that advice. Why? Because you want to maintain that car. You get your car serviced. You maintain your car. You look after it. Have you ever serviced your salah? Have you ever maintained it? Have you ever gone and got it checked? Why? Because, you know, as far as you, it's like almost like a 20-year-old car, because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, you learned how to read your namaz. But in them 40 years, you've not serviced it. And if you have a car that's not been serviced for 40 years, you know what it's going to be like. Then ask yourself, what is my salah like? Because over time, mistakes come into us. We make mistakes. People will make mistakes. It happens. And so you need to constantly service it. In the same way that you constantly service your car, you need to constantly service your salah and get it checked. I would advise you that to travel on a Madani Qafla. The brothers that are watching here today, travel on a Madani Qafla. And during that Madani Qafla, get for your namaz checked. Those sisters that are watching, find out where the weekly ijtama is. And they will have halkas, they will have study circles. Get them to check your namaz. Get them to check your wuzu. Brothers and sisters alike, we need to check our namaz, check our wuzu. Similarly, viewers of the channel, as you get older, if you're in a position now that you're working, what are the rulings about employment? Is this money that I'm earning haram or halal? Now, a lot of people will think, how is it possible to have haram income? People do not realize that, yes, you can have an haram income. People only think that halal and haram is food. No. Your income can be halal. Your expenditure can be halal. Income can be halal and haram, and your expenditure can be halal and haram. If you earn that money in the wrong way, it is haram. If you spend it in the wrong way, it is haram. Do you even bother finding out? As a result of you earning that money, what sins are you committing? If as a result of you earning that money, you're missing your salah, then what have you achieved? £100? £200? Allahu Akbar, you miss your salah. And the Prophet of Allah said that if you miss one salah, on purpose if you miss one salah, then your name will be written on the doors of the hellfire. And what happens? We run after the £100, but we don't mind our name being written on the door of hellfire. Allahu Akbar. Similarly, now you're earning money. Let's say that you're earning money in a halal way. Let's say you're reading your namaz 5 times a day, mashallah. But what about the zakat? What are the rulings of zakat? How much zakat do I have to pay, and what do I have to pay zakat on? So again, you need to have this knowledge, viewers on the channel. Then, if Allah Azza wa Jal blesses you with wealth, then what happens? Hajj becomes farz upon you. Now, do you know at what point Hajj becomes farz upon you? And if it becomes farz upon you, do you know the rulings of Hajj? Do you know what you should and you should not do? Do you know that when you go there, how much good deeds you can collect, but also how many sins at the same time you can collect? Do we think about this? Then when you want to get married, what is the rulings of marriage? What is halal, what is haram there? What is the knowledge that you need to have? Then what about when you have children? Allah Azza wa Jalla blesses you with children. What did you need to know that is further upon you that you need to teach your children? Do you know these things? This is all for knowledge, viewers of Madani Channel. These are all things that we should know. And we've not gone into any side avenue, so to speak now. That, I want to become, I want to invest in this and it's, drop shopping, or I want to import goods, or I want to export goods, or I want to manufacture and I want to do this. Is it halal or is it haram? We don't know. Now, this is why, viewers of Madani Channel, the scholars are there. You know, in the same way that, you've got a problem in your abdomen, yeah? You'll go to the doctor and the doctor will give you some tablets and you're going to say, doctor, can you do a scan? If you do a scan, I'll feel better. You'll feel better that you've done a scan and everything's okay. And until that scan happens, you're worried about what is happening inside you. But in the same way, have you scanned your business? Have you scanned your life? Have you scanned your livelihood? Have you scanned your income? Have you scanned your expenditure and think, this is where I'm earning my money? Is it halal? This is where I'm spending my money. Is it halal? This is how am I living my life? Am I living a halal life? Am I on that path which inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, Allah will be pleased with me? Or am I on that path of destruction? Am I on that path where inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, if I continue on this path and I stay on this path and I have the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, then inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, that when I enter that dark and lonely grave, then insha'Allah Azza wa Jal, I'll be able to answer them questions. When I go onto the bridge of Sirat, then insha'Allah Azza wa Jal, the Prophet of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will help me cross. On the day of judgment, insha'Allah Azza wa Jal, the Prophet of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will be there. But if not, if you've not lived your life like that, if you've not had that knowledge, and you've constantly committed sins, and it's no excuse to say, I don't know. That's not an excuse. You can't make that excuse. In the same way, viewers of Madani Channel, I'm driving on the motorway, the police stop me. And they say, you were doing 80 miles an hour. And I go, yeah, okay. But don't you know it's illegal to drive above 70? And I'm going, sorry, I didn't know. What's going to happen? Oh, you didn't know? Oh, that's a shame. Never mind. Okay, carry on, go on. That's not going to happen. You're going to get fined. No excuse that I didn't know. Yeah? It's not an excuse. On the day of judgment, that excuse will not watch, I did not know. It is further upon you to know. It is your responsibility to know this, views on the channel. And if we live our lives as the pious predecessors did, the first thing that they did in their lives was they would acquire the knowledge that is further upon them. Whereas we don't bother. We're not concerned. We're not worried one iota. And we think to ourselves, we'll worry about it later. When it comes to our own children that are bringing the knowledge that they should have, we kind of brush it aside and think, Imam Sahib, Qari Sahib, he'll sort them out. Qari Sahib, you teach them. It's your responsibility, brother. On the day of judgment, you will be questioned. Allah Azza wa Jal says, save yourself and your family from that fire whose fuel is stones and men. Save yourself and your family. It's your responsibility. On the day of judgment, your family may turn against you. That didn't tell us anything. Amma didn't tell us anything. It's not our fault we didn't know. It's still further upon you to know. But they will also, you will be questioned about the knowledge that you give to your children. And you are responsible for that. So it's not as simple that, oh, my responsibility is to get them the best trainers, get them the best jacket, get them the best, I don't know, games console, get them the best mobile phone, so they've got the best top mobile phone, they've got the best games console, they've got the best trainers, the best jacket. My job done? No, I'm afraid not. That's not your job. Yes, okay, you should feed them, you should clothe them. You should provide them with things that they can have relaxation time, but what you must provide them is the knowledge of the deen to protect them. You know, in the same way that when a child is born, what do? You give him this injection, that injection, this injection, measles, mumps, rubella, vitamin K. Nowadays everybody's getting vaccination. Why are you getting a vaccination? Why? I'll tell you why. To protect yourself from an illness. We're all getting vaccinated nowadays. Why? To get ourselves protected from an illness. But what vaccinations are we taking to protect ourselves from the illnesses in the society? What vaccinations are we giving to our children? The moral vaccinations to protect themselves against the illnesses of the society. What vaccinations are we giving them to make sure that when they grow up, the sin of not reading namaz affects them. The sin of adultery doesn't affect them. The sin of drugs doesn't affect them. All these sins of society, backbiting, gossiping, lying, swearing, disobeying parents, all of these sins that we can talk about are not affecting my children. Why? Because I've vaccinated them. At a young age, I give them that tarbiyat. At a young age, I vaccinated them so that these illnesses. Whose responsibility is that? No, not Imam Sahib's. No, not Qari Sahib's. Not your dad's, not your mum's, not yours. It's your responsibility to give your children the necessary tarbiyat that they need. And on the day of judgment, you will be questioned about it. We've got a little kalam for you, inshallah. Let's go to the kalam, and inshallah, when we come back, we'll have some more Madani pearls, inshallah. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
گنج بخش فیض عالم مظہر نور خدا ناک سارا پیر کامل کا ملارا رہنما داتا علی حجویری 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 نظر کرم فرمانا بگڑی ہماری بنانا نظر کرم فرمانا بگڑی ہماری بنانا داتا علی حجویری داتا علی حجویری داتا علی حجویری داتا علی حجویری ہو مدینے کا ٹکٹ مجھ کو عطا داتا پیا ہو مدینے کا ٹکٹ مجھ کو عطا داتا پیا آپ کو خواجہ پیا کا واسطہ داتا پیا آپ کو خواجہ پیا کا واسطہ داتا پیا داتا علی حجویری داتا علی حجویری سیدی یا مرشدی داتا علی حجویری مجھ کو رمضان مدینہ کی زیارت ہو نصیب مجھ کو رمضان مدینہ کی زیارت ہو نصیب خرچ ہو رہا ہے مدینہ کا عطا داتا پیا داتا علی حجویری داتا علی حجویری داتا علی حجویری داتا علی حجویری کاش میں رویا کروں عشق رسول پاک میں کاش میں رویا کروں عشق رسول پاک میں سوز دو ایسا پے احمد رضا داتا پیا سوز دو ایسا پے احمد رضا داتا پیا داتا علی حجویری داتا علی حجویری سیدی یا مرشدی داتا علی حجویری غرض در در پھروں میں بھیک لینے کے لیے کیا غرض در در پھروں میں بھیک لینے کے لیے بھیک لینے کے لیے ہے
सलामत आस्ताना आपका दाता पिया, है सलामत आस्ताना आपका दाता पिया। दाता ली हजवेरी, दाता ली हजवेरी, दाता ली हजवेरी, दाता ली हजवेरी। उजड़ घर आबाद हो और गम के मारे शाद हो, उजड़ घर आबाद हो और गम के मारे शाद हो तेरे हर एक मंगते का भला दाता भैया, हो तेरे हर एक मंगते का भला दाता पिया। दाता ली हजवेरी, दाता ली हजवेरी, सैयदिया मुर्शिदी, दाता ली हजवेरी। तख्त शाही की नहीं है आरज़ो अत्तार को, तख्त शाही की नहीं है आरज़ो अत्तार को, आरज़ो अत्तार को। इसी को दीवाना बना लो अपना दाता पिया, इसको दीवाना बना लो अपना दाता पिया। दाता ली हजवेरी, दाता ली हजवेरी, दाता ली हजवेरी, दाता ली हजवेरी। नज़र करम फरमाना, बिगड़ी हमारी बनाना, नज़र करम फरमाना, बिगड़ी हमारी बनाना। दाता ली हजवेरी, दाता ली हजवेरी, सैयदिया मुर्शिदी, दाता ली हजवेरी।
Sallu alal Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. MashaAllah. Viewers of Madani Channel, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did here in the studio. MashaAllah. Beautiful kalam, and made you think and reflect that how lucky we are as Muslims that we have this rich heritage, these pious predecessors that have gone before us and laid the foundation and maintained Islam throughout these ages. And it's because of their efforts, viewers of Madani Channel, that many of us today are Muslims. And this concept of calling towards righteousness and forbidding from evil is such a great deed that, you know, the pious people of the past, they always took it upon them. They always invited people to the path of righteousness. They always brought people into the fold of Islam. They always corrected those people that were misguided. They always educated those people that did not have knowledge. So it's such a great, thing, a great deed of calling people to the path of righteousness. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam asked Allah Azza wa Jalla, Ya Allah, what is the reward for calling someone to the path of righteousness, inviting people to the path of righteousness? And Allah Azza wa Jalla replied that for every word that you spoken, 1 year's record of good deeds will be written in his account. Allahu Akbar. And that is the job that how the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he called people to the path of righteousness. This continued with the Sahaba Karam, the Taba'in, and all of the pious predecessors of the past. They continued in this mission. And even today you see it with the Amir al-Sunnah, that this mission of calling people to the path of righteousness. And Data Ali Ajwari, he also was part of this as well. And he made it his habit of calling people to the path of righteousness. And he arrived in Markazat Awliya, Lahore, a city in Punjab in Pakistan. He arrived there, and his aim was to accomplish this important duty of calling people towards righteousness. He showed such qualities of knowledge and philosophy that that city, which was drowned in the darkness of unbelief and polytheism, became a fort of Islam by the efforts of Sayyidina Data Ali Hajwari Rahmatullah Ta'ala. Allah Akbar. By virtue of his good manners, his good character, his politeness, his humbleness, his hikmat, his wisdom, and his profound love for people, that he found love in the people's hearts. As a result of that, many, many people came into the fold of Islam, and he stayed in that city for approximately 30 years. And during this time, viewers of the channel, he became occupied with preaching Islam day and night. His perfect character, outstanding conversations, his personality and sayings that touched the hearts, took people out of polytheism and immorality and put them on the path of guidance. And he said that with his own hands, he laid the foundation stone of the masjid near his residence in Markazat Awliya in Lahore. During the construction of the masjid, he himself worked like the laborers and contributed to his part in the construction of the masjid with great love and enthusiasm. And this was the first masjid. Listen to this. You know, people that know Lahore now, and if you were to say to them that how many masjid are there in Lahore, could they answer that? Data Sahab laid the foundation for the first masjid, and he built that masjid with his own hands. The first masjid in the city of Lahore was built by Data Sahab. And instead that Data Ganj Bakhsh Rahmatullah Ta'ala, he served the religion with great love throughout his life, and he gave the message of peace to those who were depressed and fulfilled religious and worldly needs of his disciples and his true lovers. And even today, you know, approximately 1,000 years, people flock to his shrine so that they can get the blessings there. People go there so they can seek that, and people feel at ease there. People travel all halfway around the world to go to that city, to go to that place. And you cannot go to Lahore without going to the shrine of Data Sahab. Allahu Akbar. And this is, you know, whenever people go to Pakistan, if they can have the opportunity, they will always go there. And so, by the blessings and visiting of the shrines of the saints of Allah, du'as are answered, difficulties are removed. Visiting the shrines of saints for this purpose has also been a manner of our pious predecessors. So don't let people get this whisper inside you that you shouldn't do it. It was the routine of Sayyidina Data Ganj Bakhsh Rahmatullah that he would visit the shrines of pious saints. He recorded many incidents related to visiting shrines in his famous book, Kashifat al-Majoob. And I'm just going to relate a few of them here. He stated that in one incident, Sayyidina Data Ganj Bakhsh Ali Hajweri has said that during the journey to Syria, I visited the sacred tomb of Sayyidina Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala, the blessed muazzin of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala sallam. He said that I fell asleep there, and I find myself in my dream in the city of Makkah al-Mukarramah. Here I saw the greatest and holiest Prophet sallallahu ta'ala sallam at the door of the tribe of Bani Sha'ib, kindly holding an elderly man as a child is held in the hands. Out of my overwhelming love, I fell upon the feet of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala sallam. I was curious to know who this elderly man was. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala sallam said, knew the state of my curiosity due to his blessed knowledge of the unseen, and he said to me that this is Abu Hanifa rahmatullah ta'ala, and he is your Imam. Allahu Akbar. He further said, once I had some difficulty related to religion. I tried to resolve it but was unsuccessful. I had the same kind of trouble earlier as well. And he said, I went and visited the shrine of Sayyidina Shaykh Abu Yazid rahmatullahi ta'ala, and that problem was solved. This time I also intended to visit the shrine. Having this intention, I had a chilla moments of reflection at his shrine for 3 months so that my problem could be resolved. In another place, Sayyidina Data Ganj Bakhsh rahmatullahi ta'ala states that Sayyidina Abul Abbas Qasim bin Mahdi, that his shrine is situated in Merv, Turkmenistan, and it is very famous. People make dua for the fulfillment of the desire and ask for help for the major problems to be solved, and they are helped. And this has been tried many, many times. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of the channel, we mentioned earlier on that when we come to our basic knowledge, our aqaid, our beliefs, we need to be sure what our beliefs are. And one of the beliefs are that the saints are alive in the graves. Sayyidina Imam Ismail Haqi rahmatullah ta'ala said that the bodies of the prophets, the saints and the martyrs neither change nor decompose in the graves because Allah Azza wa Jal preserves their bodies from decomposing. Without a doubt, viewers of the channel, the pious people of the past, they are resting in their graves. They're not decomposing. It is sinners like me and you that when we enter that dark and lonely grave, what's going to happen to us? We need to reflect on that, viewers of the channel. That these pious people, we need to spend time and gain fairs from them, gain blessings from them. Go and visit their shrines, do the du'as, and pray to Allah Azza wa Jalla that when we enter that dark and lonely grave, that we are amongst those blessed people through the blessings of these great personalities. Allama Sheikh Abdul Haq Muhaddis Delmi has said that the saints of Allah are transferred from this mortal world to the endless world, and they are alive with the Rabb. They are provided with sustenance and they are pleased, but people are unaware of this. Sayyidina Allama Mullah Ali Qari rahmatullah ta'ala said that actually there is no difference in both the conditions, either life and the death of the awliya. It is therefore said that they do not die but are transferred from one home to the others. Viewers of the channel, we need to learn our aqaid. We need to take benefits from the pious people. We need to visit the shrines of these pious people whenever you get a person an opportunity. How sad it would be to go to a certain city, and for example, like we mentioned today, how sad would it be to go to Lahore and not be able to go and visit the shrine of Data Sahib? It is your unfortunate. You are the unfortunate one if you've not been able to do it. You are the unfortunate one that if a scholar comes to your town and you haven't got time to go and see them. You are the unfortunate one that if a pious person from abroad has come here and you haven't got time to go and see them because you're busy watching football or playing football, you are the one that are lost, not them. They're not at loss. Data Sahib doesn't need us. We need him. We need to go and seek that tranquility. Go there and find peace in our hearts. Go there and do dua that, Ya Allah, make us amongst those people that are fearful of Allah. Make us amongst those people who are your humble servants. Make us amongst those people that are true lovers of the Prophet of Allah. Make us amongst those people that live our lives according to the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah. And reflect and sit there and think to yourself that these people, the lives they sacrificed, they lived. Didn't they have families like me and you? Didn't they have a wife and children like me and you? Didn't they have a stomach that needed to be fed? Didn't they have a body that needed to be clothed? Didn't they travel? Didn't they want to make it easy upon themselves? Didn't they sleep? What did they sleep on? Didn't they want to sleep in comfort? Yes, they wanted to do all these things without a doubt. But what was more important to these people, and this is the message that we need to learn, viewers of Madani Channel, when we talk about our pious predecessors, the message that we need to learn from all of them is that their life mission was to please Allah Azza wa Jalla. Their life mission was to please Allah Azza wa Jalla. And that is something that we need to reflect on. That is something that we need to think about. And that is something that we need to say to ourselves, where am I going? Where am I heading? Viewers of Madani Channel, I've just looked and I realized that we're coming towards the end of the program. Time does not permit me to continue. So in the meantime, viewers of Madani Channel, until the next time, keep watching Madani Channel. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
The special favor of Allah. Holy Allah. The universe is the body and its soul.